Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? It's your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. Today, we are talking West Virginia Mountaineers. Our man, Mike Kazaza, who covers the Mountaineers for 24/7 Sports. We're going to be talking about, football's right around the corner, man. Thank goodness we're done with all the rumors and the off-season craziness. So we appreciate you guys being here. First things first, Mike, how are you doing today, man?
Good. We're kind of in our dead week here where they had 16 practices in 18 days, 16 media availabilities. Practice was open a couple of times. The head coach talked every day. There's not a whole lot known about this team, like specifically,
Right.
but so many blanks are being filled in with what you thought or what you're learning. And I think more importantly, Brian, it's been 2 years of coaching uncertainty and coaching searches here in both the major sports.
Right.
And to have this new fresh start where things are energized, it doesn't really affect me except for the people I, talk to, write for, interact with. They're pretty pumped about this. And that's a lot different than this apathy or uncertainty. And this is different, but even last year when they had Darren DeVries as the basketball coach, not thinking he'd be here 1 year, but it was who is this guy? What's he doing? Everybody here knows who Rich Rodriguez is.
Right.
For one reason or another. And leopard stripes, or I guess leopard has dots, right? Whatever the saying is, right? Yes, the good stuff is still good. The people who maybe had issues with some stuff in the past seem like maybe not forgot, but forgive, sure. And then just this common cause of golly, can they just win some football games? Can they be exciting? Can they matter in November, which hasn't happened in 6+ years? That's your fingers crossed moment here, and you don't know, but you also don't know, and that's a bit different too, because you went into some of these seasons before being like, this is not it, and you're right. And I don't get that right now.
Well, and that was kind of the thing, Mike, that I was going to ask you, and you covered a little bit of it. How's the new Rich Rod, I guess 2.0 going? And it sounds like kind of like you said, a mixed bag. People are willing to forgive, not necessarily forget, but to be devil's advocate. If they come out and they start 8-0, I'm going to guess that people are also, you're going to forgive and forget, all of that stuff. Or is it, no, we're still going to clutch our pearls a little bit and see what's going on here?
We'll do a little of each, Brian. If I know college football fans and specifically West Virginia fans, so they're 8-0, they'll be mad as hell that there was a 17-year gap. And they'll go to the former president's house and they'll start harassing the former athletic director. What were you doing? We had all this misery where we could have had all this euphoria in between. But I think to your point, if all of a sudden people have to reconcile how they felt, a decade and a half or more, versus how they feel in the moment, which is, wow, this is really exciting. This could be a college football playoff team. And, however many millions of dollars comes with that to fund what's really hard to cobble together at a place like this year after year after year. I think you worry a little bit less about what was and you get more excited about what will be.
Got it. So obviously coming in today's day and age, man, when you have a new coach, regardless of how accomplished that coach is, you're going to get some turnover. 52 new players coming to West Virginia at last count, at least by my records. Is this a complete restart? Or because you have some guys coming back, some key football players coming back, is it more of a, hey, we just need to replenish the roster? Even though I know that sounds crazy, replenish the roster with 52 new guys, but sometimes when you have frontline guys at certain spots, it's not all completely start over, Mike. It's just, hey, we had a lot of turnover, but we also had a lot of guys coming in that can play some football.
All right, this is your show. I don't want to actually you. Well, actually, Brian, they're near 80 new players.
Ooh, okay.
I'd have to do the math in my head, and some players that were here that count toward the new count are no longer here. They had people transfer in and then also transfer out because it wasn't going to work. So transactionally, you're talking 80 entries. Some of them left. I get that. But even since the start of camp, they've added 6 players.
Oh,
just
wow.
from whatever wire is available right now. And, of course, they're all going to be difference makers and really move the needle, right? That's what everybody thinks right now. But that's just kind of what you're doing, because to your point, there's a way to support this. There's a way to address this soft spot, or hey, that was a blind spot we didn't really realize until we went through, I don't know, 10 days of practice, a couple days in pads, a scrimmage, whatever. Can we get somebody else here? Or we lost an offensive lineman, we probably should get an offensive lineman. And they do
Right.
some of that. There's almost like two different sides of this. Offensively, there's just almost no continuity. They have some guys who played a little bit, like Nico Marchio is likely, I think, going to be your QB1. And if not, it's still a good story, because he probably performed well enough. And if he gets beat, then they're in good hands. But he'd be your leader. But like, he's just started a handful of games, hadn't played particularly well in most of them, but he hadn't lost either.
Right.
Offensive line, just plugging guys in that have played a little bit in reserve roles and went out to the transfer portal. Jaheim White's their best offensive player, I think. And he was a backup. He maybe performed better at times than the guys in front of him, but like, they didn't give him the entire workload. He's a freshman and then a sophomore. So you don't have a whole lot there. And then everything around him is new. But, their tight ends are new. Their receivers are new. Most of their offensive backfield is new. They have, they might start and then in their top 8 have all but one new offensive lineman, maybe two. What's different is on defense, they just have a lot of college football veterans who have maybe not played here. Again, hardly anybody played here. A couple people, younger, smaller roles. But they have guys who played Division II, FCS, Group of 5, and other levels, and have done really well. And I think that there's this like, all right, can these guys learn what to do and then just go out and play? Can the coaches figure out, through the camp and maybe the first couple of weeks of practice, or excuse me, the games, what they learned from practice was real or was not real in the games, and just figure out who's the best and what do they do best and go. Because I think their defense is going to be aggressive enough and kind of mix and match and shape shifting enough that it's not going to be the same week from week, which gets you around from teams getting to beat on you. But also, I think they're going to be able to use a lot of players and roles that'll make those positions better. And that's the difference on defense, that they have, again, not here, but some guys who played a lot of college football, been all conference players, been starters, experienced, different on offense, except the offense just, this is kind of a lack of a better phrase, and maybe it's naive, but it just works.
Right.
It's not terribly complicated, but it's terribly effective when it gets rolling. And like this, I've seen it happen before. Like when that offense gets confident and gets rolling and it just thinks it can do what it does, it's really hard to stop.
Well, and that's the thing. I was going to ask you a little bit about Jaheim White, but maybe I'll switch course here. Is it seems like there's just a lot of new faces, which I think can work to West Virginia's advantage. You don't know who's now. People understand Rich Rod's scheme, but you don't necessarily understand the players. I'll get into it a little bit, but I think this is an opportunity here to be something different. To get West Virginia back to where it is. Because I know me and you have had these conversations before, Mike, and I just quite flat out honest, college football is better when West Virginia is good.
Yeah.
It just is. And now you can say, well, Brien, you're kissing the ass of Mountaineers fans. I'm like, man, I'm 49 years old. I've been around. I've watched college football my whole life. I'm from Louisville. I'm a diehard Louisville fan. I'm not supposed to like West Virginia, but honesty is honesty. College football is just better when West Virginia is good. Was this a good hire bringing Rich Rod back?
In December, you would think no.
Right.
But that you don't play the games in December, and
nope.
You're not going out and your final product is not due, the first of the year or anything like that. It was going to take time, and just in so many ways. Just never mind the past. Well, that's a big part of it. A lot of reconciling, a lot of ironing out wrinkles there. I think that's largely been done. And some people who aren't going to be affected aren't going to be affected. Like they're going to be mad forever, or they're not going to care. I don't think that's going to change. But there's a large population in between those two poles. And then I think that you over time realize that, wait a minute, offense can be fun again. Wait a minute, offense just does what it does and dares you to stop it. Mm-hmm. And I just think that, again, this is a weird thing, but this may make sense. But like, just the really good coaches, they coach on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yeah.
And they just call plays and call counters on Saturday.
Yep.
And it just felt like Saturdays were so hard for the past couple of years. Try to win by 1, or you're up by 14. Just try to hold on for the win. Well, why not win by 28?
Right.
Why try to win by 2, right? And that simplifies it. There's a lot more problems in that. But I just think that there was a personality or perception, and one or both might have been true, And now you know this coach, and whether you experienced it before, you heard about what it was like when he wasn't here, and you're saying, wait a minute, this all sounds so easy. We're just going to run the same play 18 straight times and dare you to stop it. And if you do, we'll go the other way, or we'll add a wrinkle or some type of counter to it. And that's, And then defensively, they were just such a darn mess for so long.
Yeah.
And then now you get a guy who, listen, this matters here. You give him the highest assistant coaching contract in school history. You pluck him from Oklahoma and Brent Venables, who is his mentor, to work with the offensive innovator. Well, now you're cooking.
Yeah.
So when those pieces start to fall into place, and then you bring in Pat White and you bring in Noel Devine, and now you're mixing some nostalgia in with, I think you probably agree, is at least formulaically pretty exciting offense-defense combination. And then you get players. And again, now all the players are like 20% better than they actually are because they're part of this experience. And then, wait a minute, they have NIL? Holy cow. And no revenue sharing is in. So some of it is just organic because the way the sport has shifted. And then West Virginia can go out and buy players now. Everybody can. But like what happened before, West Virginia would get out-recruited or out-transfer portaled sometimes just because legally, immorally, whatever. It was hard to do sometimes.
Right.
Well, now they can go out and they can play the same game. So now you're like, wait a minute, we can give this guy who's most known for like the whole like Island of Misfit toys. Well, now what if he gets the toys he wants? Because he just went and got the defensive coordinator he wanted because he could spend for it, right? So there's this confluence of events that old, new, but you shake it up and like everything settles. You're like, this actually looks like it could be a football team eventually. You know, they got 80 something players who weren't here before or weren't in the same roles before. They can't find 22. They can't find 30. Come on, these coaches are supposed to be better than that. And then just when you're down for a long time, I think anything that is different is better. And that's probably the most exciting thing here. And then the fact that I don't think he's here because he won, all those games and Big East titles before. That helps. But like the fact that he won in the transition, in the circumstances that he did at Jacksonville State, that matters. Like if he had like a 5-win season and a 7-win season, a 9-win season, he won 9 games 3 years in a row. He transitioned from the FCS to the FBS. He won his conference championship in the second year in the conference. Like now you plug him into West Virginia, where it's not a perfect comparison, but like it's not the easiest place to win, but he's overcome the barriers before to win in the past couple of years. So probably do a lot of familiar stuff here that he knows how to do with because it's Morgantown, but also what worked the past couple of years. And people to say, listen, was it the first pick? No. Does it look bad maybe to some people that West Virginia always trying to move forward, turns back the clock and takes a guy? And does it ever work anywhere else where a guy returns and succeeds? Man, does that matter right now?
No.
Like, no, you just want to kick off and play. And that's the thing. Like, we'll have more answers, obviously. But I think like where they are right now, it's far more of a yes than a no. And it might even be far more of a yes than I don't know right now.
Right. And you mean, like I've mentioned to you before, I'm originally from Louisville. I just said I was a diehard fan. One of my good friends from high school grew up in West Virginia, and me and him went back and forth, and we both agreed. It's kind of like Bobby Petrino. When he came back to Louisville, he left on some shaky circumstances, ended up coming back. Was it everybody's first pick? No. Did the athletic director, did he necessarily want to do it? And maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but it turned out actually really good in the second time around. So hopefully that can be the same thing with West Virginia. You mentioned Zac Alley, defensive coordinator. Rich Rod, with what he does, I'm going to just assume, and maybe I'm wrong, that he's just, hey, here's the defense. You handle it. You do everything. Is that kind of what we're looking at here? And how successful can he be given what West Virginia, just this season? Anyway, that's all I'm talking about is this season. Can he be with what West Virginia has on that side of the ball?
Yeah, so he's the head coach of defense. He's the defensive coordinator, fine. But I think if you're going to like try to make it very simple, he's the head coach of defense.
Got it.
A lot of his staff that he has hired, he's hired because he has experience with them. He's heard about them. He's worked with them, or he just was like, I like this guy. I've heard good things. I interviewed him. And that's when these staffs are so big now, Brien, like 20 something coaches, you probably want to do that. I don't think you want one guy who's maybe known for more offense or defense having everything to do with everybody. Candidly, that doesn't work here. I tried that. It doesn't work here. So you kind of put him in charge, and like he knows his thing, but also Rich knows him. He worked with him at Louisiana Monroe and then at Jacksonville State. And then he didn't have him last year, and they're still good. But he wants him, he gets him back, and it works. So I think you just say, listen, whatever you need to do this. And he's got out and done it. The portal stuff is going to be really important for him because, again, so many new players. if they get the right guys in the right spot. But they're also just kind of waiting on some stuff too. Like this is a big deal that I don't think people have recognized as far as the fate of West Virginia's defense go. But I would think, arguably their best defensive player has not practiced. It's Jamori Robinson, who's just like a hellraiser pass rusher from UTSA, who got that Diego Pavia rule where he gets the one extra JUCO year, and he's here for the spring. You're like, this is a nice piece, right? He's that bandit guy who's supposed to rush from the edge. Well, he and 3 other guys are ruled ineligible now because they don't have the waiver. They're doing court on Tuesday to get an injunction. Maybe they can play, maybe they can't. But like Chris and I at our site, we did like a fantasy draft of who could put together the best 11 players. Right. Robinson was his first pick.
Right.
Like that's the scope of player you're talking about here, and he hasn't practiced yet. So can they supplement that? Sure. Is he a make or break guy? No. But he lifts you up a level because, for as long as West Virginia has been in the Big 12, all the offenses they've seen, all the passes they've seen, all the shootouts they've been in, and all the good defense players they've had, they've never had a 10-sack guy.
Gotcha.
And like, here's that potential to do that and just affect the passer. Their defense on the secondary was just miserable last year and a couple of times in the past few years. They have good corners and good safeties in different spots. Just the way they align, play like even front quarters coverage, they'll be better. They'll be more active on the ball. But if they can get somebody who harasses quarterbacks, it's a big difference. And that's the piece they're waiting on.
Gotcha. Flipping to the schedule here, look at it. You got a couple of early games, the non-con, then the backyard brawl, which obviously is a big deal, not just West Virginia, in college football in general. I mean, it's a big-time rivalry. You get that one at home, you win that game. But the Big 12, you start looking at the first 3 games, it's kind of a mixed bag, Mike, because it's like, okay, Kansas, you're at Kansas, and Kansas was supposed to be good last year, and then they weren't. And then they had new offensive coordinator that's shifting everything around. Utah, same thing, supposed to be really good last year, fell on their face. New offensive coordinator, new quarterback, switching things around. Then BYU wasn't supposed to be very good, turned out to be really good, but then they lose their quarterback in June. So, it's kind of a mixed bag on what's going to happen, but you just start navigating and looking at the schedule. They got to a bowl game last year. I think it's manageable to do that again in the first year. What do you see as success for West Virginia this season?
There's a couple ways to do it. They haven't been 1-0 forever. Just think about that, Brian. They haven't been 1-0 forever. They'll be 1-0 this year because they play Robert Morris. They go on the road their second week to play Ohio U, which I think is a great opportunity for them because there's that old adage about like the difference between week 1 and week 2, and West Virginia has played an FCS team in week 2 for a while or later. Now you really got to be focused to go on the road in week 2 into, I think, what'll be by their standards like a madhouse, but there'll be a lot of West Virginia fans at Ohio U. And then that's sandwiched in between that and the Pitt game. And I'm just telling you, like, that Pitt game is going to be extremely awkward and emotional because the last time that West Virginia, as coached by Rich Rodriguez, played Pitt, I'll just give it the TLDR. It did not go well.
Oh,
we'll leave it like that. That game is going to mean a lot, which really worries you about road trip, first Big 12 game, Kansas the following week, and whatever that offense is up to.
Right.
And then you get Utah and whatever that offense is up to at home. That's going to be a physical team. That's a pretty rough opening stretch of the season. And then, by the way, short week road trip, Friday night game, BYU right after that. That is a mouthful for the first half of the season where so many things are going to be new. And I just think naturally rocky. Doesn't mean unsuccessful, but it's going to be rocky. You can have a rock tumbler, Brian. You might come out really smooth after that, but you're going to tumble for sure. And then you get a break. So you have the long week, the short week of BYU, you're open the next week. And then the stretch of schedule there is really interesting. It's at UCF, which I don't think anybody thinks is going to be a great team this year, but has that old is new with Scott Frost. Home against TCU, a team that frankly West Virginia is going to have to leapfrog. At Houston, last time there, not great. Lost on a Hail Mary. Home against Colorado, don't know. We'll see. And then just a brutal finish at Arizona State, open week, 13th week of the season, open week, and then at home against Texas Tech. A lot could be on the line in those 2 weeks at the end of the season. But I really think how they get out of that, how they get into that break, and in particular, that Pitt Kansas swing just kind of gets me a little bit. And then that short week BYU, the plane ride home from Provo and the, hey, we'll see you on Wednesday is a lot better. if they win that game, because if they don't win that game, that's a long flight home, and they're not going to have a couple of days off. They will, because it's an open week, but the coach's going to have him in there, and at Rock Tumbler, he's going to start spinning a little bit faster, and making sure that second half of the schedule advantageous if they hit things on the right stride. So I don't think this is the worst team in the Big 12. I don't think the schedule lines up that way. I could go into about who teams play before they play West Virginia. It's not great for the other team. They play some of the teams that are supposed to be better. A lot of the teams that come to Morgantown are on the road the week before. They don't have a lot of opponents who are off the week before, which has happened to them before. And I just think that there's a chance this team is going to be better toward the end than it was at the beginning naturally. Good coaches will do that, but just there's so many things you don't know right now. They'll refine it. That open week is the first open week's in a really good spot. And then the other thing is, like, the quarterbacks in this conference, there's 9 returning starters that 2,400 yards and something, I forget, 18 touchdowns, something like that. They don't play most of them.
Right.
So, like, there's some good quarterbacks that they don't see this year. So there's going to be good offenses, sure, but they're not going to get every one of them. And the teams they do get, some are home, some are on the road, but, like, they're in the back half of the schedule. Like, they get Josh Hoover, Sam Levitt, Baron Morton, second half of the season. They should have far more answers to questions by then.
Gotcha. Well, Mike, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for giving us your time today. For anybody who doesn't know where they can find you, tell people where they can find all the stuff that you do.
All right. Twitter, at Mike Casazza. It's spelled just like it sounds, right? But I think it's down there on the screen, but it's MikeCasazza. And then our 24/7 site is earsports.com. Podcast is Country Roads Confidential. And I'm just telling you, man, like, the guy behind the mic is, I don't know if he knows that he's doing it or if he's doing it on purpose, but he's been viral lately. He's been kind of like must-see news conferences, which is just, again, a zag for what we've seen here the last couple of years. But there's something going on besides X's and O's and depth charts and game plans and things like that. Like, it's been pretty entertaining so far, and I have no reason to believe that won't continue.
Gotcha. Well, appreciate your time today, Mike. Thank you as always. We will talk to you, obviously, again, like we always do throughout the season. So appreciate your time. And thanks, everybody. Again, remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. We will talk to you again soon.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.